a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expounding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcoming back to the show, Mark Olly. It is so good to see you, mate. How's everything going?
Not so bad. A little bit hot over here. It's like an interview in an oven. But
yeah, 'cause you guys don't really do AC and stuff like that, air conditioning. We over here in Texas are kind of used to warm weather rolling through, and we are equipped for it.
No, we're absolutely not. We've had 3 heat waves. This is the 3rd one. We've just topped 35 degrees today, and nobody over here, nobody has air conditioning because it never gets this warm. And of course, we've got hosepipe bans and water shortages, and you name it. We just don't plan for stuff like this. We just don't.
I'm gonna say part of the. I'm gonna say maybe it's your beard, okay, and you're just bringing the sex, and that's what's causing the heat wave over there, Mark Olly. You just can't keep it off you there.
The solar panel for the sex machine. That's what does it. You see.
Hell yeah. All right, man, before we get too crazy into this thing, want to as well direct the audio only audience's attention down to the show description. There is a link there that reads video version, and you are definitely going to want to check this out. Jessie Powers from Fernway Glass is joining us, and she is going to be linked down below all the ways to find her. She is brightening up this conversation with a little visual awesomeness, and all of her links are going to be located down below. So Jessie, thank you so much. This is cool. She's going to hang out with us in the afterthought as well. So we have just a whole bunch of cool shit going on. I got a stack of books back here by you, Mark Olly, and I'm very excited to just dive into some of the topics that you've chosen to write about, and then some of the work that you've got. And then we're going to link all that down below, and then let people know that the best way to support your favorite shows linked down there to the Patreon link. Come join us for the afterthoughts, the hangouts, all the bonus content. We also host very for free all of the frequency theorists, which Mark Olly, you are a proud member of from the very beginning, man. So all that stuff over there, guys. Check the links, all of them down there in the show description. Our creative expansion artist, our amazing guest, and then our shit too. You might as well. Mark, where do you want to start with this, man? Because you've written about so many things. What was, in fact, let me just ask you this. What first piqued your interest into the freaky woo-woo and steered your direction off of the mainstream, if we can put it in air quotes?
Okay. Well, I was in a similar position to you. I just thought, where do I start? So as I do with everything, chronological order, let's start at the beginning, which, funnily enough, is a bit freaky because it goes all the way back to the 1980s and the invention of the computer processor. Laptop and all that nonsense. I mean, back then we had things like the BBC and the Amstrad and the Commodore and all these different machines. So I ended up with an Amstrad, and I was working in an entertainment agency, and I just thought, well, I need something to do in my spare time, which, as you know, I never have. But I just thought, hey, let's invent some spare time and do something. So I actually started off in the mid to late 1980s writing science fiction, which all of a sudden makes sense. As an author, I was sort of born into that sci-fi thing. But I learned pretty quick about the world of publishing. I'm going to give you all the trivia and the good side, the bad side, and everything. I learned pretty quick because in the late 1980s, I wrote a script for this, production and sent it off to America, totally not knowing that whatever gets to the States, of course, is not automatically copyright. And it fell into the hands of this writer who was part of the writing team for Star Trek V. So the opening sequence where you got the guy drilling into like a cracked earth, and the Spock's brother comes along on a horse and meets him, and they have this spiritual encounter and all that. Verbatim, that is the opening sequence of the book that I wrote. So that was my baptism of fire into the be careful what you do with what you write kind of moral. Admittedly, it grew into a band. I had a band that was based on the band that was in the sci-fi story. It grew into a big project over here. But that's where that ended up. So that started me off in the 1980s as a writer. And I've still got it somewhere on discs, which are now, of course, unreadable because they were written on an Amstrad, was it PCW 8526, whatever it was, double disc drive, and it's completely useless. I did get them converted, but the conversion now, I think it was Windows 3.0 or something that converted them into. So that is equally as, on a 3 1/4 floppy disk. Yeah, so it's like convert of a convert of a convert, which right at the very beginning, there's a moral to this tale, I suppose, and that is print everything. Just put everything into hard copy because the digital world, if it's going to have any longevity, it needs to exist in the real world. Right, fast forward. At that point, when I wrote that, like I said, I was working at an entertainment agency. In fact, I'd set it up. I was one of the 2 directors, and we did loads of things in the music business. That's where I really got started in the music business. And then along comes 1993, 1994, and my back decides it's going to collapse. Now, that is a bit off because at that point, I'm at the peak of my session drumming career. I'd just been offered the 4th record deal. There's loads of things going on. And then, after me back getting progressively worse over a year, till eventually I couldn't walk at all, basically the physio just said to me, look, you're going to have to think about doing something else. You're going to have to go and find something else because you cannot carry on doing this. You can use the drum kit as physio, to get yourself back to being fit again. So use that because that's what your body's used to. That can be your physio regime. But the chances of you, picking up gear, going on tour, climbing mountains and all the nonsense I used to do, he said that you're going to have to back off or you're going to end up not being able to walk at all. That's 1994. So in 1994... I thought, well, I'm going to start looking around and see what I can do. What am I skilled at? Well, I can do graphic design. I could still do a little bit of session playing. I've got a fair bit of business knowledge. I went off and wandered into the museum and got re-fired up for archaeology and history. And then I thought, I can write. I'm not a bad writer. The sci-fi story at this point had been serialized in a local newspaper, and it had met with, reasonable success. So I'm thinking, well, I could do something else. The crucial day. There's always the day. How somebody says, oh, there was this day and it changed everything. I wandered into Warrington Museum because we've had this museum since 1846. It's been there a long time. So I wandered into Warrington Museum and I got chatting to the guy that was sort of on duty there. And I said, do you think there's any scope for me writing books on archaeology about, local history and stuff like that? Maybe the Romans, the Celts, the Vikings, this, that and the other. And this guy just glazed over and he just looked at me and he just went, but there isn't anything like that. I don't know about anything like that. Now, my head, of course, being an archaeologist, I'm thinking, well, there's a burial mound over there and there's a fort over there and there's a sunken ship over there. And so I said, well, do you think there's any possibility of a book? And he said, no. He said, you won't. You'll never get a book out of that. So I got that out of it. There's the book. That's the first one. That's the first. Oops, upside down. That's the first book I wrote. Okay. And then I wrote another one, which, as you can see, is considerably thicker than the first one. And then I wrote another one.
Dude.
Oh, that's upside down as well. So those are actually, there they are, part of a series of 4 that I wrote. I think the last one was something, it got published like 2002 or something like that. So the day that changed my life, these are great. They're all illustrated.
Amazing.
The day that changed my life happened in Warrington Museum. So that's the Celtic Warrington and Other Mysteries, which to those who know, to those people that live here, is a bit of a joke because we're stuck right in the middle between Manchester and Liverpool. We're an industrial town, and people are like, Celts? What do you mean Celts? We don't have any Celts here. Well, clearly we do, so I've done fairly well with those. The sad story is, they all fit together to form a complete compass. But the 4th one is finished, but the publisher passed away at the age of 72 before we got to do number 4, because everybody says, where's number 4? So there was actually going to be a number 5 as well, which isn't written, which was going to be the town centre. But that's how I got started, as it were. Now then, people are looking at those and they're probably thinking, oh, they're just local history books. Well, they're not just local history books. There's a lot of, really good stuff in this. And eventually they came to the eyes of ITV and Sky. So in 2004, I teamed up with a producer, and what ITV said is, we'll make a series out of this. We'll do a TV series because you've got so much stuff, so much material. They said, we'll commission a series, but there's one condition. There's only one condition. So me and the producer sat there looking at this guy going, oh, go on, what's the condition? This guy just looked at me and he went, you're presenting it.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
I would have said the same thing, honestly. That would have been my caveat.
Well, I'd never done anything in front of a camera before.
It doesn't matter.
Just got to remember, up to this point, 10 years before that, I was, quote, just a drummer. I sit behind this wall of stuff between me and the people, So I looked at the producer looked at me, right, let's have a go. YouTube, go and find Lost Treasures, because that was the end result. We did them over a period of 5 years. There's 22 episodes. There's 3 specials for Sky. It tended to hold up my writing career a little bit because people were saying, oh, when's the next book coming out? When's the next book coming out? Well, to actually write and script and produce and, 22 episode series for major TV network is difficult, so it kind of held things up a bit. Anyway, that's kind of how I got started. Oh, and the other thing is, if you go onto Amazon and you have a look for these books, when the publisher passed away, his wife discovered that this guy was intelligent enough to order extra boxes of 1, 2, and 3. So they are still available. Don't believe that they're like £95 a copy and the collectors, forget all that. Just go back to the publisher, Churnup Valley Books in Leek, and they've got them. They've still got them. I think the number one's about £9 or something for the first one, and like 12 for the second and 12 for the third one. So you can still get them. And there's a lot of stuff. There is a ton of stuff in there. So you got those, then you got the TV series. So that's really, in a nutshell, that's how I got started. That's what got me into all this crazy writing and all the rest of it. But anyone that's seen Lost Treasures knows, start to finish, it's just one enormous magical ritual, of pushing doors. Every single one of them opened. We found so much stuff, in so many places. Gave birth to the Man in Black, who, is a character that I play on there. I used to laugh because people used to say, oh, you're up in a helicopter and you're on top of the Liver building and you're in a submarine, and you're down caves and all that. And I'm like, yeah, that's the Man in Black doing that. I'd never do that. It's him, The Man in Black would do that, but I won't. I would never do that, So there's like boring little old me that sat behind a drum kit for all those years, not being the centre of attention. And then there's this character that for all the world looks like Odin. Oh, did I give that away? It's like he does look a little bit like Odin. So really, that's what that first chapter, to use book terminology, is all about. It grew out of the sci-fi, it grew out of the music business, then it grew out of me being injured and thinking, how can I rise above this? What can I do with, all the mileage I've gained up to this point? Because it's a bit weird, artist, archaeologist, drummer, what do you do? Where do you go? How do you marry this all up? So television came to my rescue once those books were published. End of part 1.
Dude, just like in the amazing movie Cool Runnings, you have rised above it, sir. Outstanding. Your work is going to be linked down below. I'm going to let everybody know that again. And yes, I did send Jessie the Lost Treasures series. I'm also going to be linking it down below just because it's awesome. It is so gnarly. The music's great. You're great in it. All the shit you do is fascinating and cool and awesome. So yeah, Mary and I have absolutely watched multiple episodes on that. So we will link it down below and all of your other books as well. Dude, so from the historical perspective, then you then started to look at the historical narrative as maybe not so accurate. You started finding some discrepancies in that, and there was a lot of interesting things, and that's led you to write UFO books and King Arthur books and Green Man books. And
slow down.
So what? How
There's
did
more? There's more.
What jumped there? How did that go? How did you go from there?
Well, I never stopped writing, obviously. I mean, yes, I was in front of the camera doing this, that, and the other. But that really, it's like, it just got me going. It just really got me going. It got all the juices flowing, and I'm off and I'm encountering other things. I'm bumping into other things. And I'd had a friend for a long time whose interest was Romans. Now, I don't like Romans. That's why I wrote books about the Celts. Everybody knows about the Romans. The Romans are always blowing the trumpets and, shiny armor and bright colors and all that nonsense. But I thought, I'm going to write about the Celts because they're the locals. And then we did a few episodes where we had the Roman reenactors in. And we looked at Chester, which is a massive Roman fortification, and all that sort of thing. So this friend of mine had written a tiny little book called The Disappearing Ninth Legion. So what I did was I turned his 6,500 word book into this, which is about, it's just short of 40,000 words. So that is the first book for an international publisher. Because it's two authors, it's me and him, credit where credit's due. And it came out of the TV series, really, and a long-standing friendship with a guy who was a Romanist. And it's very much along the same lines as the previous lot, which taught me a lot about layout and graphics and how to write and all the rest of it. This is an interesting one, though, because we decided that a lot of academic books, like you say, history, is done a certain way. It's all BBC and this, Well, the series was flipping ITV. I keep telling people this. ITV do not do history or archaeology. They're not allowed. They just don't do it. But they do news and current affairs. So that's what we were. We were a news and current affairs program. So this is written as, let's become an expert in the Ninth Legion in a car journey. So you could set off from where we live here and be sat in the front seat of a car, and as long as you're a reasonable, steady reader, by the time you reach York, which is about 2.5 hours away, you would know everything there was to know about the disappearing Ninth Legion. So it is really accessible. It is dead easy to read. So this was done for John Hunt Publishing. It's a different publishing house down in London. The imprint, I think, on this one is O Books. And they liked it. So I said, well, do you want another one? So they said, yeah. So out of the same TV material and a shed load of other material, we did this one, The Life and Times of the Real Robin Hood, which is the first polychronicon. It's like a prototype of writing somebody's life history as a diary. So again, massively accessible, really easy to read, but it blows the nonsense completely out of the water because all this is based on facts. It's the life of Robin Hood. You can read it from start to finish, and it's all in chronological order. So then I got another call from the same publisher going, your books are doing reasonably well. We've got this other imprint. Do you fancy tackling The Green Man? So this is a bestseller. It's a bestseller now. So they don't happen overnight. I mean, you don't get bestsellers. Yeah, you've got one. There it is. You don't get bestsellers overnight. So it took a while. This is like book number 6 books in the making. But again, this is written in a very accessible style. It's chapter by chapter by chapter. And it takes you back through history and archaeology. So there's your next lot. There's the next 3. All for John Hunt Publishing. Different imprints, they're on different imprints, but that's the next wave. They took me from the end of Lost Treasures, which I think the last broadcast was about 2011, right up to about 2020. There's, I'm not an enormously fast writer because it showed one of the problems with doing what I do. It takes you ages just to write a paragraph. It's an achievement if you can get a couple of factual sentences, and then you put it down and you move on. Because the amount of background research, I've got a library stuck in the other room with 10,500 books in it. Most of these have been written pre-internet. I have to say that. Internet is like it's the icing on the cake. The cake is your historical material. You still have to go back to your source material and all stuff like that. So I only do a book about every 3 years. They're difficult to produce. Okay. End of part 2.
Dude, that's
chapter 2.
No, the insane amount of work that goes into your work is amazing. And that's the thing. So that was going to be one of my questions anyhow, is how do you keep it straight? How do you stay focused on a project, but not let it overwhelm and consume you?
Well, actually, the surprising answer is I don't. I'm extraordinarily kind of ADHD, ODD, autistic, Asperger's. Oh, hey, there goes a squirrel. You know what I mean? I'm I'm that way inclined. So it's not unknown for me to have half a dozen books going at once. I think at the moment I've got 4. There's 4 of them running on the bounce. They do cross feed. You know, I've produced loads of PowerPoints and stuff from the material, so it's living. You know, it's a living project, and it does sort of keep things going. But I don't get bogged down as well. You know, some people get into books and they have what's called writer's block, so they run into this dead end and there's just nowhere to go. You know, and your book just stops. Well, I don't do that. If I hit anything like that, I'll just go and write something else.
Nice.
You know, it's common sense when you think about it. You know, get the brain going and go and find a bit of variety and go and do that. But you will have noticed as well with those titles: Disappearing Ninth Legion, Roman Ghosts, Life and Times of Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a little bit of a radical medieval character. You know what I mean? He's a proper full-on rebel. And then the next one's The Green Man, which is kind of alternate religion, you know, looking at spirituality of a different kind. Already, the content that was scattered through those first 3 books now has become the next 3 books. So it kind of answers your question, because that's where I'm going. That's the direction I'm heading in. Okay. Then we had lockdown. So the next kind of, if you like, chapter 3, beginning of chapter 3, wham, the whole world goes to sleep. You know, was it March 2020? Everything shuts. I had so many plans like everybody else. There were so many things going on, so much happening, you know, and then they're all gone. And so is everybody else. You know, you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. There's nothing else going on. So I thought, yeah, I can get on with it. I'll get a few more books finished. So I then got stuck in to the next few books and tried to start to get them together. Gets to about 2021 and John Hunt Publishing sends out an email and says, we're coming out of lockdown. Can we have some books that kind of relate to the stuff that's going on in lockdown? You know, let's be topical. Let's see if we can find something, you know, that you know, fits. So, me being me, and so cheerful, you know, I'm such a cheerful chappy, I came up with that one.
Love it.
Which is The Crystal Skulls and Human Heads, which basically, at the end of the day, it talks about humans going extinct. You know, that's the one, you know, death, destruction, mass extinction, end of species, you know, which to my mind, I'm thinking, well, that's fantastic. You know, that is exactly what we were threatened by, you know, under lockdown. So I got really enthusiastic and I wrote it in the same format as The Green Man. And I thought, you know, this will be a great follow on. It'll follow that really, really well. And John Hunt took one look at it and sent me a message back and went, I just don't get it. I don't understand this book. I don't know where it's going or trying to say. We really haven't got a clue. So I thought, well, it's not that difficult. Everybody's got a head. You know, that's it. That's the theme. We're just looking at heads. How can you not understand, you know, that human beings have heads, and they've always had heads?
It's pretty relatable, so, I would say.
Well, I would say so, yeah. So some bloke who's sat there reading this, who's got a head, doesn't get that the book's about heads.
Right.
You know, and it even
skulls.
says it
I got one of those too. Yeah.
Well, hey, yeah, haven't we all? So that's the point, you know. So they didn't pick up on this one. So I'm thinking, that's a shame, because this is a really good book. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the end of this goes off. Quite obviously, it starts looking at alien heads, because you've got your stretched heads, your stretched skulls, you know, and what are these all about? What's going on? So I kind of trawled around and people said, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so. And I approached about half a dozen different publishers. And then I approached Philip Mantle, Flying Disc Press. And he looked at the book and yeah, he came back. Philip just came back and he was dead honest. And the first thing he said was, I really like your test cover. I love the design on the cover. And I'm like, well, that's just something I knocked up in a few minutes from a few photographs I've got here, you know. Oh, yeah, I love the cover. That can go on the book as it is. So there it is. And I love your
Philip Mantle impression, by the way. It's spot on. It's really, really good. We love Philip. I just got an email from him today. That's so interesting.
Oh, he's amazing. What a guy. Ah. So basically he picked up on this and he said, yeah, we'll give it a go. We'll get it printed up. We'll see, you know, how it goes. So this came into being, I think it was 2022, I think it was printed. 2021. No, it was actually, we started on it in 2021. It's the only book I've got that has ever gone out of print. So that's worth knowing. I don't think the powers that be quite like what I have to say in here. So Amazon, if you haven't got a copy of this, you might have trouble getting it off Amazon. So I would say, I mean, people are saying, oh, you know, your first books have got to be collector's items because they're from the 1990s. I would say that's the collector's item. If you've got one of those, you've got a peach of a book. Yeah, there you go. That's it. Good on you.
Yeah, I actually have one because you signed and sent it to me from
Yay!
Having you on the episode that we had. Yeah, to my fellow traveler in time. I love it. It's an honored treasure of mine. It stays right up here. I mean, I've always got it. I thumb through it all the time. I just think I love what you do, the way that you present your work. It's very readable. Yeah. It's very attainable and very relatable, man.
Well, yeah.
Heads and skulls all up in this bitch.
Well, that format, I've stayed with basically the same format through all the books. They're all massively illustrated. I mean, the first few are there's tons of them. There's tons of illustrations. But then by the second one, I've kind of got into my stride. So anyway, that happens. So then I go back to Philip and I say, well, you know, I did manage to finish another book while I was under lockdown that you might be interested in. But it's on King Arthur. And his first response was, yeah, here we go. Ta-da! Yeah, look at this. All the way across the Atlantic.
It is so cheers, mate. It is so cool, guys. It is beautiful. Go ahead.
Isn't it fab?
Yes.
Anyway, so Philip's reaction was, bless him, he said, I don't do things like King Arthur, it's history and archaeology. I don't, you know, that's not really what I do. So my argument was really simple. I just said, so, you know, some little guy, a little green man lands on your front garden lawn in a silver disc and you'll write a book about that. But King Arthur's a bit too radical, you know what I mean? It's a
pulling
bit too
swords
much.
out of stones, distributed by witches in water, you know, a little too much.
You know, compared to flying saucers and UFOs and little green men. So, of course, at this point, he's like, well, okay. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'll do your deal. This bad boy's 488 pages long. Yeah. So he said, if you can sort it out, he said, if you can sort the book out, he said, I will send it to print. I'll publish it, you know, on flying disc through Amazon. It took 45 years to write to get it to where it is. And it took 55 hours non-stop, 18 hours a day, me formatting it and building the book. So this really is 110% me. You know, it started in 1977 and the whole thing, the layout, the pictures, the graphics.
You went through and formatted all of this and then just sent in the manuscript for upload and he just uploaded it?
I sent him it.
That's amazing.
PDF. Yeah, that sent him that as a PDF. And that's beside all the other work involved in, you know, going through each individual photo and converting them to, you know, black and white, doing all the contrasts, doing all that kind of thing. So all the graphics are mine, everything. The only thing that I didn't finish was the cover, which I think is quite spectacular.
I love the cover. Yeah.
That was done by a chap over in, I think it was Poland. He's a Polish artist.
So cool. It's really
but the
cool.
the design and the content is me. And in fact, the central figure, there are photos of me wearing that costume. In fact, we cheat a bit as well because I did a Merlin as well years ago. So I designed that cover. Originally, I said I wanted it looking like a Marvel superheroes poster, but when he did this, I thought, you know what, that's better. Because
it looks better because it looks like a comic book, but better. What are the two items he's holding here? The red and the white. That's the Welsh Grail. So it's the blood of Christ and it's the sweat of Christ. Yes.
That's Joseph of Arimathea. So, yeah. That's the Welsh Grail.
And this is what's in the thing that you and Jaya found, episode 334. Link down below. All your episodes, 117, 192, 238, 306, 344, 334, 336. Frequency Theorist, guys.
Have we really done that
I think
many?
you are the most guest on in total. I think it's awesome. But
so, yeah.
Beautiful.
So we managed to slip this one in. Mostly, though, again, this is the product of lockdown. You know, if you leave me alone, stuck in a room long enough, you end up with that.
You could have been doing heroin, and instead you did this. You know what I mean? It's amazing. Not to say you weren't doing heroin in between. I'm not here judging either, but I'm saying like a lot of people chose to do things with that time, man. And what you did with it was really cool.
Well, just to cap it all, there's another one on the way because I'm doing the biblical one because I managed to push that further down the road as well. So that started in 1978. So there's another one of these, another bad boy, real beastie coming, which I'm hoping I'll get out in the next wave. Okay, so you can kind of understand now that Philip kind of comes back to me and he says, oh, don't you think it's time we did something on flying saucers? So we're back to your original question, what the hell about UFOs? So I'm like, you mean correct, you mean by sheer coincidence, it just happens to be 40 years since the crash.
That's right.
So I'm like, okay. And guess what? I said, it's been out as a DVD because, of course, in addition to all what I'm showing you now, I'm also recording. I'm putting albums out. There are DVDs going out on a regular basis. I'm doing Ancient Aliens. I'm still doing all of that. Still got my own band. So I'm still doing all of that. And these are kind of products. These are things that are underway. They're in the background all the time. So finally, I gave Philip a book on flying saucers. DVD was out and there'd been a few articles written about it and, but no book. We'd not actually ever done a book. So 25 years was the documentary, 40 years was the book. Right, Philip's told me not to do this, so I'm going to do it because he should never tell me not to do anything, okay?
My mom knows better. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in here, and it's down to Philip, total credit to Philip and Gary, who's the finder of the fragments. We actually got to analyse the debris. We sent one analysis to Australia and another one to America. And both of those analyses came back as being unusual, exotic. The American one was actually quite alien, if I'm being honest with you. But we're doing it again. I can exclusively reveal that we're having another go because we've got an even bigger lab in Greece that's willing to tackle it. Yeah, that stuff. And they're going to have a look at the material again. So I'm not allowed to tell you if we know anything about the results or whatever. All I can tell you is that the lab is mightily impressed. I'm going to leave it at that, okay? So there's another story on the back of this that's bubbling away in the background. We've got another analysis coming. So at some point, from a technical point of view, I can see this book doubling in size, at some point in the future. Or I might do the follow-up, Europe's Roswell reports, Freedom of Information requests, etc. Because we're not sitting on our laurels. This will be the first book, really, that has legs. It's going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And I can see it developing into, perhaps a part 2. So there you have the next 3. That's the Philip Mantle series. There you go. It's nice, isn't it? Because they all come in 3s. Okay, so we've got another 3 there. Okay, so if you want to order any of those, they're all on Amazon, and they're principally me. But, and this is where it gets nice and interesting, I was laughing when I came on at the beginning, if you remember. I was saying, well, I've got a big pile of books here next to me, because I'd completely, totally, and this is the honest truth, forgot that I was involved in other books along the way. So there are books out there that people don't know have got me in them. Okay, so let's start off with this one.
Oh,
here we go.
yeah, Jason's book. Okay, very cool.
UFO Encounters. I'm in this. There's a whole chapter in here. There's about 4 or 5 pages with illustrations of the first 2 UFO encounters that I ever had, the things that I witnessed. So that's kind of... a guest appearance. It's like, I've gone off and played with another band somewhere and produced another session and people have kind of forgotten about it. Well, it's a stonking book. I totally forgot I had anything to do with it. What an amazing writer as well. So I'm in that one. Okay. And then I'm in that one.
Weird Time. God, that's
Weird
cool.
Time. Now, this was an interesting one because they actually paid me to do it. And I'm like, wow, I've never been paid directly for doing something in a book before, wow. So it's a professional job, this one. They sent me a brief. They told me what the book was all about. They let me sort of go through that. It's all about time slips. Well, I had a time slip when I was a kid. It's quite an interesting story. So they said, well, why don't you stick your stories in this and you can write the introduction to it, which I think they thought was going to be about 200, 300 words. It's nearly 3,000 words long.
Oh, shit.
So, and it covers everything. The introduction, it's one of the best bits of writing I think I've ever done. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but when you kind of, you've hit every single point, every branch on the tree pretty much. So that's great. I mean, and it's a good book as well. It's very off the wall. It's written in a very freehand sort of way because you're dealing with people's actual experiences in here. And it's kind of slipped through the net because it's a US publication. So that's another one that's got written material in. And then, of course, somebody decided they were going to ask me for some quotes to put in their series of books. So I'm kind of splattered through your series as well.
Yes, sir.
So
honored too. So
there's another 3.
And this is the thing, right? Forwarding and offering your inspiration as your energy to the project. And I considered that, whenever I was reaching out to folks for contributions for our journals. And yeah, it's very important. Every person that's in there, it's very important to me. And thank you for those.
Well, I've got to give you a plug, haven't I? I've got to say it because I'm involved. There's bits
sweet.
and bobs in there. So, so there's actually, I thought there was 3 lots of 3, but there's actually 4 lots of 3 when you start to look at the other books. That's not to say that I've not been involved in a lot of other books as well. I mean, I was going through the cabinet, but I can't take credit for writing them. I can only take credit for having some form of oversight. There's all sorts of ones out there that I've read, proofread, gone through, over the years. Some of them going all the way back to the 1990s. But I'm not counting those because I don't appear in them. If I just get a little credit in the thank yous, then it's not strictly speaking me. But there you go.
I think
that's
it's awesome.
All of them.
God, Mark.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had so many, honestly. I only ignorantly knew what was on Amazon and what I knew you through Flying Disc Press for. But of course you did work before that. I met you middle of your writing career. That's amazing. And so, yeah, you put out the Crystal Skulls and Human Heads and then sent it to me. You were on the first batch of folks that I met through Philip Mantle when we started working with Flying Disc Press, because he's episode 4. And each guest, and this is for people who don't know this, rabbit hole wise here, the little Easter egg, each guest gets the opportunity when they come on to personalize the episode. And the intro song for the show, it says the name of the show twice, Expanding Reality, right? And it's all in time and on an echo, and it sounds like Muppets in Space. It sounds really cool. So everybody gets to come in and do that. The second one's always the guest, but the first one is always Philip Mantle. Philip Mantle's voice is in just as many episodes as mine is. It's amazing. Wow. So that dude's just like a legend in my mind, because he connected me with all of you guys. And I can go ahead and announce it. We're publishing with Philip Kinsella. I'll show you the cover and the afterthought. So we'll pull up the cover and the afterthought because we already have everything ordered and ready to go. We have a release date and everything. So very excited about that. So maybe your next batch of 3 we talk about, and getting your 4th one that's sitting in limbo. We'd be honored to take a meeting on that, Mark. Let's talk, dude. So out of all of these then, out of all of your works, you've grown so much through this writing process. And I know it's hard to kind of, and you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm curious if you lean towards one being more your favorite, or if you enjoyed writing one more, or the results ended up being surprising to you. Like, do you have one that's just sort of, special to you in a unique way and stands out among the others?
I have.
Good Lord.
I have, but for different reasons. Okay. I like that one because I think I nailed it. When you do a book and you go back and you think, that is going to be a tough act to follow. And I've had so many people over the years come up to me on that one and just go, I understood every word of it. I really get it, So as a writer, as a communicator, that's probably the gold star. That's the one that Well, it's understandably it's a bestseller, and I've got this friend of mine as well who I've known since the 1980s. His name's Anthony Potts. We all call him Potty, and he did all these designs for it. His artwork is through the whole book, and we always said that's one of his, that's one of Potty's. We always said years ago, artistically, creatively, we were going to do something, between us, and it just fell on this book, and it's the perfect. In every respect, it's the perfect combination. Me, him, the publisher, the fact that it's gone out on Moon Books and it's Mind, Body, Spirit stuff, it's everything. Just the whole thing, it is such a tough act to follow. So I can kind of understand John Hunt not, being quite so enthusiastic about the other one. Yeah, it's full of stuff like that, honestly. You'll never see another one like that. That's a wood carving from Bali.
It's amazing.
There's so much in it. Yeah,
well, and the way it's put together, and your artist friend in here, I mean, he has these haunting images. It's almost like,
that's
if you ever read Scary Stories by Shel Silverstein, Goosebumps, he did those, but he did like
Goosebumps, yeah.
But the adult or the big kid version of them was the scarier ones, and he had these real haunting images in it.
There's another one,
and it's like that.
Hang on, we catch
there, and there's a he's got Rosalind Chapel in here as well. Of course, right? Indeed. Green Man figures around Rosalind Chapel. Look at that.
Yeah, that's another one of Anthony's. Another one of Potty's.
Dude, Jessie may be inspired to make a Green Man stained glass there. And again, guys, check the video version of this show because Jessie is just making some incredible work down there. I love this. Our first stained glass artist. Stained glass artist?
Stained glass?
There it is.
Yeah.
And she's very unique. She has some amazing stuff. And you guys just need to check out her Instagram. I'm not going to... This probably actually won't go up on YouTube because it's not... YouTube's not good enough for it. So definitely check Patreon, guys. We are hosting things over there for free because they're ad-free as well. And we're working to get everyone off of PoopTube because we're not welcome there. And so why would we constantly be trying to get in somewhere we're not welcome? And this beautiful artwork can be displayed there. But definitely go check out her Instagram. I've been sending them to my wife for months now. And you will see why whenever you go check her work out. And then that is the little... cryptic plug that I'm going to leave there for you guys, but definitely check it out because she's incredible and a vibe too. We talked on the phone. She's incredibly cool. Here's one more piece from this dude, just because I wanted to pull up how mesmerizing that is. Yeah, just truly awesome. This is a beautiful work. So if you don't mind, then blow our minds about Green Man. What is Green Man? Why did you write this thing?
Okay. I'd kind of been doing a talk as a PowerPoint where I'd been looking at the archaeological background to the idea that planet Earth has its own life force, its own soul, if you like. And that combined with I found a report, an archaeology report in 1994 about a bog body that was found in Cheshire called Lindo Man. What they did was, to cut a long story short, they analysed the body trying to find tattoos. They didn't find any tattoos, but they discovered that his skin contained an almost lethal dose of copper powder. So, of course, you can see what my mind does then. My mind starts going, start naked out in the wild, it's a misty, foggy night. He's about to be sacrificed, chucked into this black lake to be sent onto the Celtic otherworld. He's painted with copper powder and it basically turns him green because it oxidizes. So the world's first hard, factual archaeological evidence that green men were actually real and were real, beheaded, sacrificed, chucked into the ground, is Lindo Man. And that everything just fell into place. I just thought, right, that's it. Start to finish, the whole book, everything makes sense. I understand it. But it goes all the way back to 7,500 BC. The Babylonians had a concept of a Humbaba, which was a green man. So I had a nice little neat story from pretty much every time period, every epoch, as it were. And it just built. It just built into a book. It was so obvious to do it as a book. And also when I did it, each chapter, it was like, right, on your marks, get set, go. because I'd already done all the background work. I already knew what I was doing, so I could write it. So I wrote most of it freehand and then kind of chucked the factual information and references in afterwards. It was just such a pleasure to do. And I think people have caught that, Two other books, which I can refer to. I like that one because it's got no end to it. Also, I strongly suspect that when we finished with this, it's going to physically prove the existence of UFOs, whether we have disclosure or not. If you see where I'm going with this.
Are you going to be disappointed if it turns out to be governments or just human beings or a breakaway civilization or something like that?
No, I won't be disappointed at all. I don't care really what the outcome is, but I'm kind of mildly excited, that we might actually have our hands on something that is alien. So yes, that's been a bit of a blast doing that. But my personal favourite, it's got to be, hasn't it? Really, it's like. When you've got something you just keep picking up because you can't put it down. It's been there since 1977. We're in 2025. It's like, to actually have it now and it's there in print. And the hardbacks are just so brilliant. They're fabulous. To see that finished, it's been a labour of love. So 3 books, 3 different reasons. One is a bestseller because it's good on every level. One is an ongoing investigation that might change our entire perception, human perception of time and space, and that because it's a personal thing. Personal voyage of discovery.
Yeah, elephants are only pregnant for 2 years. You know what I mean? And they at least spit it out after that. You held on to that thing for quite a while, man. Yeah.
A long time. You can imagine, in all that time, 45 years, things change as well. And it's quite funny because I'm so pleased I waited, because right at the very end, the very last minute, out there in the Middle East in 2014, they come up with 2 shipping receipts for the Holy Grail. And I'm like, yes, but they only translated that from the Arabic, and the book was only published, in 2016, I think it was. So hanging on, it's paid off. It has. It's so paid off. And all that information, of course, is in there. So there you go.
And you show the Grail in episode, 336, right? With Jaya, the second one? 336
yes,
or 7, I can't remember.
Anyway,
it'll be located down in the show description, guys. Check that out. And you show a picture of it, and there's a little nick taken out of the side of it. I asked if Jesus bit it. You said no. It was a little piece for. Do you mind telling that story for what was the chip out of that thing for?
Well, in brief, when the Crusades happened, Jerusalem ends up in a mess. They don't want to keep a lot of the holy objects inside Jerusalem because it's dangerous, and the Turkish forces actually demolish the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So there ain't anywhere to put anything like the Grail. So the Grail gets moved to this little tiny chapel outside the walls that's owned by the Hospitallers and the Templars. The shipping receipts show that it's Templars, Knights Templar, 2 of them, that carry the Grail in the direction of Spain. The reason I'm telling you this, Saladin, the famous, opponent of Richard the Lionheart, was incredibly respectful of the Templars. Incredibly. They had this special relationship. He gets to hear about it, and he sends a message to the Templar Grand Master and basically says, my daughter is extremely ill. Can you send me a tiny little piece, a tiny fragment from the lip of the Grail to heal my daughter? Now, you've got to bear in mind, this is like, middle of the Third Crusade. This is like, Hitler asking Winston Churchill to send him, medicine. But at the end of the day, the Templars are honourable, and they're like, yes, we can do that. So while it's being shipped, they take a tiny little chipping out of the lip of it. They send it to Saladin, and we know from the records that his daughter was healed, and he kept the tiny fragment in his treasury as a tiny little bit from the lip of the cup. The cup in Spain has got that tiny little piece carved out of the lip. So it ties up everything, goes full circle. You can tie all the loose ends up. And funnily enough, I did watch a program the other day. I think it was on YouTube about it. And they came to exactly the same conclusions. So it's now out there. People know about it. It's out in the public consciousness. But of course, it wasn't when I was writing the Arthur book. It was quite a mystery. But most people now are leaning towards that. But that's just one of the 27 different grails that I found. There's a lot of them.
How did you know it was the grail on the shipping receipt? Did they write grail or was it coded?
No, it actually says, in those days, it's known as the Cup of Christ. And it actually says, no, it actually says it in Arabic. It says, we sent the Cup of Christ to Spain. It's there.
Interesting. You'd think they would conceal it or call it something different,
Well, no, because the shipping receipts are private, which is another reason why.
It's the private manifest, so it had to be accurate.
Yeah. That's
maritime law. Gotta love it.
And that's why they know that they're real, that they're genuine, because they weren't written for any other reason other than to list the cargo.
For commerce,
and that this cargo was special and who it was going with and why and where it had come from. So they're legal documents. That's what they are. They're nothing to do with religion whatsoever. So it just says Cup of Christ. And we know it got there because of the correspondence that was filed by Saladin. We know that these guys set off. We know it went all the way to the destination in Spain, and it's still there now. So, it all ties up. Brilliant.
Wow.
All ties up.
It's just so interesting how this place works like that.
Back to your original question. I don't know. I honestly don't know. It baffles me completely how anybody out there can be involved in history and archaeology and all this sort of thing and not end up getting tied up in the mysteries. They go hand in hand. The very act of researching history raises questions, and I don't get it how people cannot be interested, because this is what people believed in the past. So if you really want to know what's going on in the past, you've got to know these things. It just baffles me.
I do feel that they bump up against something and then they can't go any further, or they're challenged to the point of being too scared to move further with their information if they question. And a lot of that is, ignorance is bliss, man. A lot of folks just won't rock the boat just because they feel like they got a good thing going and they don't feel like they are worthy of presenting information that goes against the norm. And that's an interesting thing, but you don't give, your fucks are gone about it. And I love that about you, because you're just like, no, guys, check this out. Boom.
Well, yeah, my attitude is, hell, if it's a duck, shoot, it's a duck. And the whole thing with the UFO, they said when I did the documentary, they said, you're doing so well with Lost Treasure and all the rest of it. If you produce this documentary, it's going to kill your career flat. That's what they said. You've had it. This is not going to be good. Far from killing my career flat, I got commissioned for another 2 series, so.
Which hand did you flip them off with? Was it just the one, or was it 2, or,
Oh, it was both hands and all me flippers.
Very good.
Everything went in there. Everything went in there.
Good for you.
I was like, no, because at the end of the day, you see, I sat there and I held a piece of it. Now, you can't, you can talk about flashing lights and out of focus photographs and stuff that got away, and all this kind of thing. But when you sat there with a piece of it, you can't argue with it. That's what it is. It's there in front of you, and it's demanding an answer. And I've always been like that with archaeology and history. That's it. Why is this thing the way it is? Why is it there? What do we know? What we don't know? And so on. It's the big question. It really is the big question.
Yep. You are one of 2 people that has an ist behind any of his titles, and we can actually have a great conversation. I respect the shit out of the way that you look at things, because you are able to present it with new information, confer the factual things or confer the story, and then go, well, hang on, that's in there, but it's in there this way. And we get to unpack a lot with you, man, because you are a wealth of knowledge, but you're not bound to it like programming. You said, well, this is information, but what are we finding here?
I've got a shed load of letters as well that I don't use, by the way. I'm also a reverend.
Oh.
Did you not know that?
Because I got ordained online. Does that count?
No. 3 years at Bible College, certificate of ministry, Diploma of Biblical Studies, Asian Pacific. I'm a vicar in the Assemblies of God, the AOG. So that happened in the 90s. I did that in the 1990s. So, and I'm also a Templar. I'm also in the Fleur-de-Lis. Most people don't realise I'm also in the Freemasons, but not the bad lot, the good lot, if there is such a thing. There's just tons of stuff like that, but I'm still me, at the end of the day. I do often sit there, as W.C. Fields once said, who would ever join a club that would have me? Oh, no, it wasn't W.C. Fields. It was, what's his face? Oh, it's gone out of my head. Anyway, very famous quote. Says, I would never join a club that would have me. But at the end of the day, I did.
Member, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, would have me as a member. I'm trying to remember who it was.
That's a great quote. Somebody's shouting it at their device right now. They're listening or watching this.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember one of his other quotes when he went through customs was when they said, "Do you have anything to declare?" He said, "Only my brilliance." I
like that. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who it was that said it, though. Oh, there you go. Caught me off guard.
Write it in, guys. Comment down below. Whatever your comments. Write it in, and I will take a look at that. And thank you for the update. Dude, well, I mean, this is all incredible. It just seems like you've just got so much fire as well, and there's so many stories to be told still. We're still uncovering things. You were out there with Jai on your pilgrimage and just running around having an incredible quest. We hope to join you, or we know we will be joining you for some epic quest down the St. Michael's line or something to that effect very soon here. And if you guys are interested in doing something like that, write us in at the email below, and we will start tallying folks for that, because Mark would be our guide and walk around and we'd hang out. There'd definitely be music involved. And it'd be a lot of fun. Let me ask you, when you were going through the Bible there, did you ever pick up on that the God of the Bible's probably Satan? Have you gotten that?
I've seen the theory. I have seen the theory, and I'm slightly off that conclusion. I don't think anywhere that the devil, Satan, Lucifer, whatever, is ever given as being anything but created. So because it, whatever you want to call it, is created, then it's below God. You know, it's lower than God. But I have been known to upset people because, you know, I've turned to some people and I've said, you might get a surprise when you get to heaven because you might find the devil there.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, he's doing what God told him to do. That's the only bottom line. You know, he's only obeying instructions. And you see that in the Bible. Very often God will tell him, or he'll suggest something, and then God will tell him again. So he's doing something that is by instruction. So I'm not saying, you know, I don't buy the fact that, you know, there's kind of two gods and they're equal and they're fighting each other, and good and evil are equal, you know, and maybe Satan is Jesus's twin brother, you know, left-hand side, right-hand side path and all that. There's so many theories about that. But no, at the end of the day, Lucifer was just basically is the opposing view. It's an angel that is specifically designed to take up the opposite view, the opposing view. And at the end of the day, anything, anywhere, anybody, it doesn't matter what it is, if you are doing what Almighty God is telling you to do, no matter how we might perceive it, that is actually the bottom line. That is absolutely it doesn't matter what religion you're from, what you're following, what your personal beliefs are. It doesn't matter whether you're an angel or a demon or whatever. You know, the Bible at the end of the day is a book written to us. It's not written to every single thing that was ever created. It's a book that's only written to us as a species, just us specifically. So that means it's limited in some ways. So we haven't got a clue what's going on behind the scenes. Not the foggiest idea, other than the fact that there are these beings. You know, it doesn't matter what you call them. You call them angels or call them aliens or, you know, entities or, you know, whatever, good and bad. That's what they are. They're just out there, but they're not us. You know, they're something else. So there's something else going on there. And that just seems to be the common denominator right the way through, you know, page 1 right through to page 1600 of the Bible. All the common denominators are people just doing what God tells them to do, you know. And some of it's from our viewpoint, some of it's good, and some of it isn't. But it moves us all forward. It gets us to wherever it is we're going in the end, you know. I think, you know, I've had this discussion with my stepdaughter because we've talked quite a lot about angels recently, and I don't pity the devil, but in a way I feel sorry for him, you know, because he's not got a good job. It's like, you know, out of all the jobs in the council, he got the one as driving the bin truck and cleaning out the drains. You know, it's like, poor guy, you know, he drew the short straw. But I guess that's what you get for being as bolshy as he was at the beginning. But, you know, so I've got a slightly different view of that. It does open things up a bit as well. So, you know, I've got loads of friends who are, you know, mainstream religious folks. You know, some of them are quite high up as well. Buddhist, Islamic, you know, Christian, Catholic. I've had loads of people. But the same thing's true of everything else as well. I know people in witchcraft. I know people in Luciferianism and Satanism. I know all these different people. And we all just get on. Because at the end of the day, we're all on a journey, and we're all, you know, once you get past what I would call the militant masses, because you've got them. You've got them in every single religion. It doesn't matter what it is. Even, good old Druidism, there's militant. There's this militant activist, I'm right and everybody else is wrong. Once you get past that, you can sit down, you can talk to anyone. When he was alive, you could have gone and talked to Anton LaVey about, Satan. And at the same time, the next day, you could have gone and talked to the Pope. And chances are they would tell you the same information, because beyond a certain point, we've all got the same thing to work with. You can only work with the same material. The planet is what it is. The universe, everything, it is what it is. As the alchemists used to say, it's a journey. It's about that journey. It's about finding what's going on out there, and Freemasons do it as well, seeking the mysteries of the universe and trying to find out what's behind it all. It's out there. That's been going on for thousands of years. We don't know all there is to know about the hidden realms, which I suppose is what goes on in my brain behind the scenes.
It's wild. And I've noted here, we're gonna go into this a little deeper. We're gonna pull up a drawing board. I'm gonna do some art too, along with Jessie here. And the afterthought, we're also gonna do Philip's book, of course. So I want you guys to see that. We'll debut it here. And then the Children of Woolpit. You've heard of them?
Yeah, Green Children of Woolpit.
Yes, we're gonna talk about them because I'm curious about that and how it relates to your Green Man as well. And then Green Man ties to Bigfoot. We're gonna talk about that as well. Okay. So yes, we've got all kinds of stuff. Satan's Little Season convo in the back here. Philip's book, Woolpit. I wrote something else down there. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. I can't read it right now, but it's going to be great. So all of that stuff is going to be located in our expansive afterthought, which will be located down in the show description, guys. It is a wonderful way to support your favorite show. That is also how you get access to all of the bonus content that we do. Now, I perpetually leave the free week trial on. Some folks will say, hey, we have it on this week and you can join this week. Guys, it's always on. So if you're curious about any of that content, please feel free to go sign up. Also sign up as a free member and get all of the free shows here, the regular shows that go out, because we are working our way off of Poop Tube again. We are not happy that you guys have to sit here and have Mark interrupted by ads constantly. They interrupt lives, by the way, guys, which is kind of the final straw. Music as well. How are you going to interrupt a song with an ad, Mark? You're a dickhead. That's how you do it. And so we're doing our best to pull our energy from that and put it in places that actually value the messages that we put out here. So I want to just remind everybody all the ways to find Mark and our incredibly cool creative expansion artists, Jessie, Ransom, Powers, Fernway Glass, located down below, guys. Check that out, Mark. Before we actually, I got one more question for you here, Mark, but I got two. This one first. What do you think she's making there, bud?
It looks a little bit. I've only got a tiny screen, so I can see the spider.
Oh, here, let me blow it up for you. Here, I'm going to spotlight this for you, and then this will.
Just flick it up. For the viewers.
Flick it up, indeed, my friend. We have flicked it up there. All right, what do you think that is, man?
Well, there are two things there that look vaguely reminiscent of vesicas, but perhaps I'm better off not going there till we get off YouTube, because we know what vesicas. For this reason,
because it's too cool. Go ahead.
Well, they look slightly feminine, and then you've got this spider web, and then I think what she's doing there is putting together a duck.
Duck, eh?
No, a snail, a slug.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna let you. I think you were right on all of them, because this is also correct.
Okay, well, I'm just going to give you a tale about a slug, because for some reason we had slug trails all over the living room here for days, day after day after day. And occasionally the cat brings things in like that, stuck to his fur. But what was frustrating was we were hunting for this damn slug. We couldn't find it. And it was leaving trails on all kinds of things, like me boots, and me socks and books, carpets, shiny trails everywhere. Sure, you could just dust them off, but it's really irritating, and then 2 days ago we found it. It had come crawling out. And I don't know what had done it. I must have been eating salt and vinegar crisps or something the night before, and it had hit a patch of this area where these crumbs were, and it had just gone and shriveled up. No. So we've had a slug tail, and it's been running for about 2 weeks. So how funny is it that you've ended up memorializing the slug? It's a memorial to Mark Olly's living room slug. that we just couldn't find. So the invisible slug, which we now know has departed this mortal coil, he's passed over to the great slug heaven, is now immortalized in glass. How appropriate.
That's fantastic. I have also been calling it slug summer. I have been making quite a few slugs this summer, so it is my theme of the summer.
Well, hats off to you, because I think slugs are amazing, and I think
agree.
They're underrated.
I agree. I think they're so fascinating.
Really big ones and bright colors.
Oh yeah, this one's a chomper too.
Yeah.
How big that is.
Fabulous. That's excellent.
This is so
Thank
cool.
you.
And yes, you nailed it on the Vesica Pisces.
Yeah, two vesicas and a cobweb. I quite like the cobweb, actually. It's a bit kind of Batman and Robin.
This is, you can't tell. This will be a spider as well that will go on the cobweb.
Yay.
Oh, cool.
Yay.
Guys, check her out, located down below. Oh, absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, Jess.
I almost want to make a lead panel for my front door, lead stained glass panel.
Hit me up. I can do that too.
With slugs staggered.
Oh my God, please
all the way down it. So when people knock
like
on the door,
project for both of you that needs to happen.
Because then people, they'll be at the front door going, "Oh, that's a really unusual panel you've got."
That is honestly, that would be my favorite type of panel I've ever done.
There you go. So it sounds like it's a done deal, made in heaven. I love this.
I'll see if I can find a space for it. That's brilliant. That's awesome. Look at that.
Well, guys, again, all the ways to find her located down below. And Jessie, we will be inviting you back. Thank you so much. And she's going to stick around for the afterthought. We're going to go crazy in it. So definitely hang out. But Mark, before we let you run, man, you know what I'm going to ask, dude? What gets you out of bed every single morning and keeps you moving forward? Why do you keep doing this, dude?
Two things. You never get the same day twice. So you're never sure what's going to happen, okay? Life, doesn't matter how dull, how boring, what kind of boring jobs you do or whatever, every day is different. So that gets me out of bed because I'm excited. You're never sure what's going to happen. And the second thing is actually probably more important. You're never going to get that day again. You only get it the once. It's there and then it's gone. So if you're going to do something and you're going to achieve something, then why not make it today? Don't make it tomorrow. Don't make it yesterday. The only day you've got is today. So those two things get me out of bed in the morning. There you go.